All right, guys, welcome back to the shack. And today I want to bring to you a new laser that has hit the market. It is currently in Kickstarter, but I've got one of the beta models. It's early on in the process of getting the machine out there, but we've got the machine for you to take a look at. And the machine is the Atomstack Glacier. The Glacier is a 120 watt max output. Blue diode, which is water cooled, and it has a 800 by 800 millimeter work area, which is a beast, both in power and size. So if you want to see more about the machine, stick around and we're going to get started. All right, guys, so unlike traditional diode lasers, this machine is a two-part machine. This is the actual machine itself with the controller attached to it, and sitting over here in the floor is the chiller. So before we get the chiller up here and look at it, I want to go around the machine and just show you how it's built. So the machine is very reminiscent of the A70 Max that Atomstack sells. I have the Pro, but I never had the Max. It does have the extrusions, or heavy duty extrusions, all the way across the front as well as the sides. It uses the steel rod and roller type drive system, as far as there's no rubber or plastic wheels that you have to worry about getting flat spots or whatever. This technology, this method of drive has been around for a while, and it's very effective, and so far I haven't wore any out that I've got in my shop. It does come with a powered Z-axis, but also has a little knob here that you can use to make adjustments if you want to do it manually for whatever reason. So far I've been using the autofocus and it works awesome. The autofocus is usable through both Atomstack Studio software, which is their own software, Lightburn by way of a macro, and you also have access to this button here on the controller that will cause it to focus wherever it is. So if you're using this in current position, you can just move it by hand, hit the autofocus button, and it will autofocus. One thing that I did notice with this machine that's different from some of the older ones is once you focus the machine and if you home it, the Z-axis, it doesn't reset the Z-axis. So you don't have to worry about, homing, then setting the Z every time. Once you set the Z, it does not move unless you reset it. So that can be good, which I prefer. But some of you guys may need to make sure you remember when you're sending the machine out, if you change the thickness of your material, you may need to raise the head up before you do. So that way you don't hit the materials. But all in all, everything's good. I do know this drag chain situation is getting changed because the drag chain does tend to get into the work area, but I've already been told by our contacts at Atomstack, Steve and I have, that this is going to be addressed to do a little cleaner job of that. Other than that, guys, the drivetrain, the basic controls and everything is the same as what you typically would expect from Atomstack. All right, so the second half of this laser system, guys, and I'm going to turn it on so that you can see what it looks like here. You'll also get to see that, unlike a lot of machines, when this machine's just sitting idle, it's not that loud. Even with the water chiller, it's not that loud. I have used other water-cooled machines that are far, far louder when they're powered up. It does, at times, the chiller does kind of accelerate and decelerate, so there will be some changes in the volume during that time. The machine does have air assist, controllable in software, of course. Basic setup is what you're familiar with Atomstack machines. You've got an output from the controller into the air pump and the line here. I will say this pump is one of the better ones. It's putting out lots of flow. This machine does not have an underpowered air assist. That was one of the things that I've always stressed to Atomstack, is get it right when it comes to air assist, because it can make the difference in a laser. It can make a mediocre laser good, but a bad air assist can make a good laser terrible. But you can see here the control panel on the front of the chiller. It does have a readout. It's got lots of information there, but the machine will give you an audible. It will let you know if something's going wrong with the chiller. It does communicate through this serial connector here with the laser, and you can see a data stream if you open up the command window in Lightburn, or if you go to their view tool in Atomstack software, you can see the communications of the status of the chiller with the laser. But yeah, that's what the machine running. Now, when you power it up to cut, you know, it does get a little noisier because you've got air assist hissing and you've got the air pump running, but this is your idle sound right here. I'm standing right over top of it. So for you guys that don't like noise, there you go. One thing I like about the chiller is not only is this an active chiller, but they took some precautions to make it easy to keep it clean and keep it efficient. So this thing actually has filters built into the sides of it, and you can see up inside there, but it's got these magnetic filters that just stick right there, and that's going to make keeping this thing clean and keep it running efficiently a lot easier, because you can literally just pop these off, hit them with an air hose, a can of air. You could probably even wash them if you wanted. I wouldn't use anything, you know, abrasive or whatever, but yeah, it's got magnets on there, and they literally just snap right there and stay on there to keep stuff out of the machine. And you can see it's doing a good job of catching Fluffy's hair there. I got cats in here and dogs and all that. So far it's doing a really good job. But the one thing that benefit that you do get with that is, look at this module, guys. The module, there is no fan. This thing is not sitting over here just gobbling up the smoke that's being generated by the module. And if you do need to clean everything, of course you will. The bottom is just magnetically attached, so that comes off easy for cleaning. It is adjustable. There's a lot. One thing that a lot of laser companies don't always do is give you plenty of range as far as adjusting the Z-axis, but you can see the dovetail goes from all the way to the bottom of the module all the way to the top of the module. So that gives you a lot of Z-axis adjustment with the module. So if you're on a table or if you build an enclosure and you have a recess, you can really utilize that to get down deep into the table or raise it up for thicker material. So far, structurally, the machine is doing a really good job. And so let's go over some settings with some of the materials that I've tested it with, as well as the software. All right, so now that you saw what the machine looks like, let's talk about what the machine is capable of. And of course, being a over 100 watt diode machine, it's good at cutting, okay? Cutting is gonna be where this machine will excel. But before anybody says it, oh, you can't engrave with that machine, keep in mind, this machine is capable of being switched from the 120 watt output, which is turbo mode, which Atomstack recommends not to use for extended periods of time for obvious reasons. It has a 100 watt mode, a 80 watt mode, and a 40 watt mode. So this machine has multiple power outputs that you can select from. So if you need to hit the gas every now and then to cut out some 3/4 inch material because you just don't want to do it with a scroll saw or a table saw or whatever, you can do that. This is some 3/4 inch poplar that I cut, and you can see there at 10 millimeters a second with 2 passes, I'm getting a really nice caramelized cut. Not a lot of soot. I didn't clean this or anything, so it's doing a really good job with that. But if you really want to see, you know, flex some cutting ability, and you're going to be standing there ready to go in case of a fire, you can actually cut 3/4 inch poplar. Why did I say poplar? 3/4 inch poplar with 1 pass at 5 millimeters a second. The burn quality, there's a little more burning, there's a little more pitting in the cut compared to the 2 passes. So you're going to get not as nice of a cut, but if you're just wanting the flex, you can do it. 5 millimeters a second, 1 pass. Just make sure you stay with it, because you're getting up in the ranges of the potential for fire is good. So speaking of which, played around with a little pine, and as you can see right here, it done a really good job, but look what happened right here, guys. Flame alert, all right? And it was correct. Now, the fire was not, there was not a fire when I got in there. You can see right there where it was burning pretty good apparently, but it was underneath the material where the beam was coming out the back side of it. The machine sensed it somehow. Flame alarm went off, and you can see right there it stopped during the cut. This machine, I will tell you, it has a port for a flame extinguisher. So I'm thinking that's to come, probably going to be similar technology to what we saw with the Hurricane where it sprays water, because when the alarm went off, the machine kind of raised up and did like a circle pattern around where it was at when the alarm went off. So I'm assuming had I had that extinguisher on here, it would have sprayed something on there. In this situation, it really just used the air assist because that's all that was coming out. But it does work. I've tested that. The big thing with this machine, like I said, is going to be cutting. I have compared it to similar machines of the 120 watt variety, and really close results when you look at the two cuts. I mean, it's really close, but there are some differences in the overall performance as far as the machine goes. For 5 to 3 millimeters a second, you can cut some 3/4 inch material if you want. Me personally, I prefer to stay in the 1/4 inch range, maybe 1/2 inch if you're feeling froggy. But I'm getting some nice cuts out of this machine. On the 40 watt setting, you can see there, got some nice clean drops. The backside's not burned or anything. Got a little bit of staining from the honeycomb, but at 40 watt setting, getting 7 millimeters a second on this 1/4 inch birch right here, which is really good. That's comparable to most every 40 watt machine I've ever used with this material. On the 80 watt setting of this machine, it's getting on up there, getting a little bit faster speeds as far as the cut, all the way up to 14 millimeters a second. And you can see the back is a little cleaner because there again, the less power you're sending into the material, the less you're going to have on the back side. So, you know, the higher the power output goes, you really need to be higher away from the base of the machine. That way you don't get all that flashback from the machine. But let's face it, none of us have any 6-inch thick honeycombs laying around. So here is 100 watt. Okay, so 100 watt output, and I've got this one little anomaly up here at 20 millimeters a second, but that is definitely not something I would do on a regular basis. So on 100 watts, you're looking at around 16 millimeters a second on this material, this 1/4 inch birch that I use a lot. And that's a really good speed. It's competitive with most any other machine that I've ever used. And like I said, I like to run my tests sometimes, multiple passes, multiple tests, just to make sure it wasn't a fluke or something in the material. And same basic results there, 16 millimeters a second, 1/4 inch birch, which is really fast. And it's not, frying the back of the material as bad. So with poplar, poplar is one of those materials, like I said, it's a hardwood technically, but it's not hard to cut. So it's really good to work with. It engraves nice, cuts good. And if you've got some good clean poplar without any knots, you can get some nice cut times and cut speeds. So you're looking at around 18 to 20 millimeters a second for this 1/4 inch poplar here, which is, like I said, poplar's a good wood. It's readily available, especially around the Southeast United States. You can pick the stuff up at Lowe's, Home Depot, relatively cheap. So, like I said, I did lots of other testing with the thick materials and so forth. But realistically speaking, guys, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch material should be your go-to for any laser. If you're cutting material on a regular basis, it's 3/4 of an inch thick or thicker, I strongly recommend you get either a CNC like that or just use saws because it does get risky. The further out of focus a machine gets, the more heat is generated into the material, and if you get that heat in here too deep, bad things can happen sometimes. Even after you walk away, you can just notice that it keeps going. But just to compare the capability of this machine to what I'm used to, I used my Atomstack. This is my A70 Pro. I run it at 5 millimeters a second, 2 passes. But this is another thing that I like with the Atomstack machines and the Powered Z's. is the first pass I did Z minus 6 millimeters, and then I had it do a 4 millimeter dive on the second pass, and I got a nice clean cut. So you can do very similar results with a lesser powered machine like the A70, but with this machine you could run it on 80 millimeters a second and have similar results and just have a little extra throttle in the event that you needed it. Now, that is what we expected this machine to excel at, but some of you guys have probably already commented down below that that beam's going to be too big, you're not going to be able to engrave with the machine, so it's a laser cutter, not a laser engraver. I get that comment a lot, especially with some of the bigger machines. And is the dot size on this machine bigger than others? Yes. Is a couple thousandths or a couple hundredths of a millimeter going to be noticeable in wood? Not to me, it isn't. So just to get the naysayers, I decided to make myself another Steve on a stand. So I have Steve. This is Steve over at Ventari's Workshop. He also has this machine too, guys. So be on the lookout for his video as well. But I made me another Steve on a stand out of some birch plywood. This was non-processed. I did nothing to the image. I stole it off of one of his videos and dropped it into Lightburn just using some screen capture software. I didn't do anything to it. It's just a straight up just image and burn. And it turned out really, really well. So there you go. You can do engraving. Now, I also wanted to take an image that had been prepared slightly. So I had a family photo that I've used to test other machines. And so I decided I would run it using the settings that I use on all the other machines, which seem to be the best settings for the photo, and see what kind of results I could get if I'm intentionally trying to get better results. And so there you go. This is a photo that I took. I did set my camera up. This was taken with my Nikon. I think it's a D3200. Don't quote me on that. I think it's a 3200. And we took a little family photo. So this was a pretty good quality image. And I put it in Lightburn, did a little messing around with it, and that's what I came up with. So not a bad engrave. And if this kind of quality is acceptable to you, then quit listening to people when they say you can't engrave with the bigger machines. You can. With this machine, like I said, you can go into Studio or you can go into Lightburn, and there's macros or buttons in there, and you click that button and it switches it to 40 watts. I did the engrave on 40 watts, and then I switched it over after the engrave finished, did the cut on 80 watts, and knocked it out of the material. And this is not a fancy material, guys. This is 1/4 inch birch. This is some of that same 1/4 inch birch plywood. That's all that is. So yes, you could get better resolution on anodized materials and stuff like that with a 5 watt, 10 watt, 20 watt machine. But if your medium that you like to work with is wood, it's really hard to notice a lot of space in that dot size doing wood stuff. I haven't had a major problem with it. So if that's acceptable to you, then yes, this machine can engrave photos as well. So there you go. That's it in a nutshell. I want to try to keep this little introduction short and sweet. I know the machine is going to be going through some changes as it moves through the beta process into more of a refined machine that's available for purchase. But again, I will be dropping links to both Atomstack as well as the Kickstarter down below if you can go check those out. I think the machine is a very usable machine as long as you have the space for it. Currently, at this time, Atomstack has not mentioned to me offering a smaller version of it as far as the footprint. I have told them that I would like to see this machine in more of the X40 Max size, to where the machine is wide, like, you know, as this wide, but maybe half of the height. So maybe like a 450 by the 800, I think would be a better, more suitable size for most folks with this machine. But for now, this is what you've got. The overall dimensions of it, the outside dimensions, you're basically looking at a 4 foot by 4 foot space to put the machine, and then you're going to have somewhere to put the chiller as well. Of course, you could put that on a shelf underneath the table or whatever the case may be. You're also going to need either 2 of the honeycombs, the 850 by 400 honeycombs, or maybe that's something that's coming as well. But there will be more videos with this machine. Atomstack has told me they're going to send out some more parts, some more upgrades for it, and as they do, we'll check back in and update you guys. So go check those links out, and until next time, guys, be safe and have a good day.